podcasting from sunny Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome to Tips for Tour Operators, your podcast for growth hacks, marketing tips, and actionable insights from leading experts in the tourism industry.
Thanks for joining us for the Tips for Tour Operators podcast. This is our first ever in-studio filming with Stephanie and Amanda from Hot Air Expeditions. Welcome.
Yay! Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So Amanda and Stephanie own Hot Air Expeditions, which is the largest tour operations hot air balloon company in the country. Is that right?
So we are the largest capacity hot air balloon tour operator. It's a very long title. Yeah, basically we can take up to 100 passengers at a time utilizing our entire fleet of balloons.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So start by telling us a little bit about the business, your background, and just how you got into the business. There's a very kind of unique story behind that.
Yeah. So basically our parents actually started the company just before I was born when Amanda was about 4. So they moved out to Arizona from Illinois and just started the company from our backyard. So we had our one little hot air balloon. Our mom did the phones and all of the admin stuff, and our dad was a pilot. So then after that, they basically grew the company together. It got larger and larger. They got their first big building. They got multiple balloons, things like that. And then our parents actually got divorced, so our mom took over the company. After that, our mom actually unfortunately passed away about 5 years ago. So Amanda and I we were out doing our own thing and just kind of took over and went on from there.
Yeah, and so that was so. Your mother passed away. You were telling me the story when we were prepping for for this conversation that it was a very sudden sort of experience. And so I'm sure people watching are like, oh, these are two very young women that have taken over this company. So just tell me a little bit about how that happened. Like maybe what did that experience look like and when that transition occurred? Because it was very sudden.
Yeah, so basically, Amanda and I were actually both out of town when it happened. So we both kind of got on the first flight home, and every day we basically just went into the office and we were like, okay, what's our job duties today? And we just kind of figured it out day by day, figured out new things that needed to be done, how to charge passengers, how to do all these different things. And I think time by time, we just kind of jumped in and figured it out.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It definitely wasn't easy. There was no rule book or a handbook left behind. In this situation, this is what you do. And so we just kind of, it happened really suddenly. Our mom was actually involved in a midair collision in a plane. So we just kind of came back, all hands on deck, and we're like, we're going to figure this thing out, and have been continuing to figure it out for 5 years now.
Yeah. Now, was there ever a question about whether or not you would continue the business, or what did that look like?
No, we never even had a conversation about, hey, are we going to do this or what's going to happen? It's just every day we show up to work and keep going. Yeah.
Right. It's so weird. And I think we knew from the beginning, I mean, this is something that we've been around our entire lives. Like Steph was saying, since I was 4, since she was born. And I think there's no way that we could let everything that our family worked so hard for kind of go away overnight. So it was kind of something that we knew, this is it, we're doing it, and never thought twice about it.
And what do you think was so we talked a little bit when we were talking earlier about processes. And so tell me, you just said that you went in and just kind of had to figure it out a lot. And so what was kind of the takeaway experience from that?
Yeah, and basically, I mean, now we always tell people, and kind of part of the way that we run our business is we're anyone can be gone at a moment's notice. I mean, not something as extreme as what happened with our family, but I mean, you always have to have everybody trained and, at least something there where anybody can take over for anyone in your business. I mean, we have close to 50 employees. And so, we want to make sure that everyone is able and capable of doing every other person's job, because you just never know. Things happen every day. So just good to be prepared and have procedures and processes in place, and maybe a little rule book for someone if you're ever not around.
Yeah. And it's could just be as simple as someone just leaving, quitting the company, and just
Exactly.
maybe has a lot of knowledge about a particular area.
Exactly.
Yeah, something as basic as that. And explain a little bit about your roles in the company. What areas you both tackle.
Yeah, so I do all of our finances, kind of like our HR, things like that. Amanda does all of our marketing, VIPs, and groups. And then we both kind of have our hands in the day-to-day operations. So at any given time, anyone could be calling us, but we both kind of have our separate duties, but we're also basically in on everything.
Yeah, and I'm sure as an owner, it's like your hands on everything, or at least we hope so.
Right.
And we would like to have a really hands-on approach with our business and making sure, okay, is something wrong? Did something happen on the site? Someone's not happy? We're the first people to hear about it. So we're very hands-on and kind of making sure everything's good for everyone.
And so how many employees do you have? And also just how big is your balloon fleet? What do your operations look like?
So we have about 50 employees. A lot of them are part-time. They just come in for the flight. It takes about 4 hours of their day, and then they go home. And then basically sorry, what was the other question?
Oh, our fleet. How many balloons?
Oh, yes. So we have about 9 balloons in our fleet right now. So our total capacity is about 100 passengers on any given day.
Okay, nice. All right, so we're going to move into another topic, which is we did talk about these topics being a little bit not positive, but they're very. We cleared this before the interview, but we feel like they're a lot more authentic than maybe some of other conversations we could have. And Hot Air Expeditions recently experienced a bad press incident, and so what we want to talk about today was maybe how you guys handled it and dealt with that incident, all the way from when you initially found out about it to what you learned through the experience, and if another tour operator is out there, how they might handle a similar experience. So tell me a little bit about what happened. I think it was 2 weeks ago now. It'll be much longer ago when this actually airs, but
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So basically we had an incident and no company wants to have an incident, but there was something that happened where one of our balloons had landed. One of 4 balloons that we had out for that day had landed. The passengers all got out normally. The pilot was going to kind of maneuver the balloon to move it. And at that point, a brush fire occurred. Basically, there was a tree right next to where we landed, and the flame somehow caught this tree. And started a brush fire. So what eventually happened is the balloon actually caught on fire. Everyone was fine, but obviously this is an ordeal. I mean, this is not something that we ever want to happen. We ever want anybody in our industry to happen. We're just happy that everyone's okay. So, but what happened, so, what we like to focus on is, we lost equipment. It's not great. It's not, nobody wanted this situation to happen in the first place, but what we were most concerned with is that everyone's okay, that the passengers are okay, that our staff's okay. That's number one. To be honest, that's all we really care about. But what happened, and it was unfortunate, and this isn't all news stations or all media, but a majority of them kind of took that story and elaborated or embellished it. And so we've got people calling us, I heard a balloon caught on fire and plummeted to the ground and it crashed and all of that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't what happened at all. And that's literally, it goes from a local news station to U.S. News and World and a heartbeat. So
it was a U.S. News story?
Right. Wow. So obviously not the kind of press that we would want to receive, and not the story that we would want out there. And basically what we wanted to do is just say, number one, is everyone okay? But number two, get our story straight and get our kind of side of the story on what actually happened out there. So kind of our first step and what we did, number one, Stephanie and I raced out to the landing site, made sure everyone's okay. Does anyone need any medical attention? Are you guys okay? Thankfully in this situation, everyone was like, it was great. I mean, we would do it again. We're like, okay, wonderful. But that isn't always the case. So you just want to make sure everyone's okay, in good spirits. Are they shaken up a little bit? In this situation, it was good because the passengers were really isolated from the incident that occurred, and everyone was fine. So that was kind of our first step in making sure if any, business has a situation, which unfortunately can happen, just to number one, make sure everybody's okay. And then after that, you really have to go through the process of making sure that the appropriate channels are notified. Like in our instance, the FAA, which governs us, and then the NTSB, which investigates any aircraft incidents. So making sure to be in touch with them too, like, hey, here's what's going on. Everyone's okay. Do you need to come inspect this equipment?
So when that happens, how do you notify the authorities?
Yeah, so basically in this situation, the sheriff's department and the fire department quickly came out, and they had already notified the NTSB and the FAA. So in that situation, we didn't actually have to notify them, but we do have contacts at both, just being in the aviation industry, that we could have reached out to, or it's really easy just to do a search online if for some reason you don't know what authorities you're supposed to report to find that.
And so you mentioned that the media was actually interviewing some of your passengers. How'd that go?
Yeah. When we actually got out there, we saw that one of our passengers was being interviewed, which, I guess, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. If they want to tell their story, that's great. And hopefully they're saying great things. But we were able to overhear, we had a great time. Would I do it again in a heartbeat? And absolutely. And it was unfortunate because when we actually saw the news story with that passenger, it was kind of cut and misconstrued a little bit to what the story was that they wanted to have out there. So it's kind of one of our best practices to not necessarily not speak to the media, but we always want to put a press release out to just say, here's the story, so it can't get misconstrued, it can't get edited. And if you've never been in a situation like this and you have this happen, it's very easy to get things kind of twisted around.
And so we even actually had some of the news stations show up at our office, trying to find us, trying to interview us, our employees, our passengers, everyone. And so we basically just made sure to tell them, we don't have a comment. We're going to be releasing this press release soon, so look out for that. But in the meantime, we aren't going to be doing anything.
Right. So you didn't talk to the media at all personally?
No.
Or at least video or film crews or anything like that?
Yeah, right. Not at all. Like I said, we just want to make sure that nothing can be edited. We've seen it happen before, not with us personally, but just even that passenger who had all these wonderful things to say, and then all of a sudden it kind of gets jumbled a little.
So did it not sound good when it was actually aired?
Yeah, so once it was aired, basically what the passenger was kind of walking them through the whole process, and the part that they showed, I think, was they were just trying to get us away from the fire, which is a great thing, which we were doing. But it makes it sound a little bit more dramatic and intense than it was. Like I said, everyone was fine, never in harm's way, which is obviously the ideal. If something's going to happen, that's always the ideal situation if one is going to happen.
Yeah. So what happened? What did you do next after the media kind of settled down? Like, how'd you start clearing everything after that?
So once we did release the press release, we went over to a lot of our main clients. So we work a lot with concierge, with different group companies. So we just went around, talked to them, kind of explained to them the story, told them that the press release was out, and just made sure that they know that they can find that if they have any questions to call into our office to try to talk to Amanda and I. And if their passengers have any questions, of course, to give us a call too.
Right. And we also made sure to, we utilize a marketing company for some other things, but we said, hey, can you guys send this out to the local news stations just so that we're sure that they received it as well, so they know the accurate story when they're reporting on it or continuing to report on it. We also utilize our social media channels to kind of put it out there, and we saw tons of questions on our social media, which was great. You just never know, and there was a lot of people thank you for clearing the story up, and what about this? I have a question on this, and I'm booked with you tomorrow morning. I didn't know this was you, but I'm happy to know the story and know that everyone was safe and how you guys handled it. So I think sometimes you get a little nervous when you're putting things out and on an open forum, and anybody can comment and say things on there. But for the most part, people were asking questions and just saying, hey, we know that you guys are great and maybe things have gotten twisted around. So it was really, we were happy that we did that and kind of the response that we got also.
What types of questions were they asking?
There weren't a ton, but there were a couple like, okay, so I have a flight tomorrow.
Did you fly the next day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just business as usual?
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, absolutely. So we flew the next day we had 6 balloons going out the next morning. We had a couple people call in and just say, hey, was that you guys? What happened? And of course, we're happy to explain the situation. It actually was really surprising to us also. Normally when something happens in the ballooning industry, maybe it's not your company, but if something, just any kind of an incident occurs, which is super rare in ballooning, but the one time that it does happen, we will normally hear like, hey, we want to cancel our reservation, and we start to see a lot of booking cancellations. And this time, I think we had one party of 2 cancel out of
really
hundreds that we had booked, which, we couldn't be more thankful and more happy for that. And just a testament to hopefully how we run our business and that we are safe, we're out there, we're established, and we were just hoping that it didn't tarnish that reputation.
Was there any social media impact as far as reviews or anything like that people, no, that's awesome.
No. Yeah, and we actually reached out to all of the passengers afterwards, a week later, hey, how are you guys doing? And we got the nicest email from one of the passengers that was just saying, it was a fluke thing. I would say that you had to be there to know that it was just nothing crazy and everyone was totally fine. And not to make light of the situation, obviously, but just it was a fluke thing and we're okay. And thank you for checking in.
And it was funny, too, because we've obviously just been going back and forth with the FAA if they have any questions or anything. And our contact at the FAA sent me an email and he said, I spoke with all of your passengers and they were so happy.
Really?
Yeah, which is the best case scenario. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so if someone is in a similar situation to you, the path that you guys took that seems to have worked pretty well is, first and foremost, make sure the passengers are safe.
Right.
Second, notifying the authorities. Third, kind of dealing with media, basically. And fourth, creating a press release and pushing that out to media and just everybody else. Mm-hmm. And then maybe fifth, and correct me if I missed something, but kind of reaching back out to people after the passengers that had that experience, which I think is really cool. Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
And then also just chatting with everyone that we work with and making sure that they know kind of our side of the story too, not just reading the press release, but also hopefully hearing it from us before they see everything on the news and get a completely different idea.
Your partners,
yeah,
that's right. Any issues with employees with that? I would imagine no, but I feel like they're very close to the business.
Right, and nothing that we can say, but yeah, we obviously wanted to make sure that our staff was okay after everything, and even just checking in with them, hey guys, how are you doing? And they're like, I don't want to answer anything. Everybody's calling me, and they're freaking out. It's everybody's okay. Everything's fine. So,
and it was even really sweet too. So we had, some of our guys out there obviously just kind of handling the situation. And one of my employees called me from the shop and he said, hey, Stephanie, is it okay if I bring out the guys some water? They said that they're running low on water bottles. And so it was it's just such a team effort and they all just go out and want to help each other. So it was sweet.
Well, and the main thing that we really tried to put out there was, we're an open book and we want to be open and honest. And that's who we are as a company. If you have a question, call and ask. We're here to do that for you. And we owe that to our passengers and anyone who wants to fly with us. So,
yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right. So to wrap it up on a little bit lighter note, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the packages you put together as a tour company? Because you said, with a lot of different balloon companies out there, and this is the case with all tours, there's kind of, one main event, which is in your case ballooning, and then there's a lot of companies that do that. what are some of the things you're trying to do that are different, that are a little bit more creative?
Right, absolutely. So just like with any business, we're always wanting to differentiate ourselves. We don't want to say, okay, I see 10 balloons in the sky, but I have no idea who you are. All of our branding, all of our balloons have like a saguaro cactus on the side, so you can tell it's not just a random balloon that you see up in the air. But we've also put together some cool packages and fun things that we're doing just to kind of set ourselves apart and provide a different and unique tour experience for our passengers. We actually partnered with the Musical Instrument Museum on a package that we put together called Balloons and Tunes. And the MIM's amazing if you haven't been there. But basically it's a half-day tour, so they'll take a morning flight with us, have breakfast, champagne. We shuttle them over to the Musical Instrument Museum, provide them with vouchers for admission and a lunch, and then we'll provide the transfers back to either their hotel or the airport where we check in. So we've been doing things like that. We partnered with a local company, a local bakery called Rue's Cake House. They did some fun, unique little balloon cookies for us. So we have like a little love in the air package for couples and anybody that wants to include like a exclusive cookie that you can't get anywhere else, and then a couple of champagne floats to take home. We partnered with a teepee company and catering companies so that after their balloon flight they can land, have teepees set up in the desert. They can have a bar, catered dinner, breakfast. So just trying to differentiate ourselves and bring something like fun and new to the market, and something new for everybody out there to experience.
And financially, do you make good money on those packages? Like when you mentioned the MIM, are you marking that up? I mean, how is it more about the package, or like how financially beneficial is that?
I think it's both. We want to bring something new to the marketplace, but we also need to make sure with anything that we do that it's profitable. So with anything, yes, we do include like a markup because we're packaging everything together for them. Right. Yeah, but I mean, like with any business, it's just like you need to make sure, number one, yes, is it fun and cool and safe? But then number two, is it profitable for you? Because otherwise we can't stay in business.
Yeah. Are there any things that you've tried that just like haven't worked out? Like just kind of like flops, like, oh, I thought this would be really great, and it's like just nobody's into it?
That's a great question. Not that I can't think of anything. Yeah. Not that I can think of.
1,000.
Yeah. We're so great. No.
Just wait, our next one will come back to you.
Yeah. We'll come back with all more shows. Yeah, not that I can think of.
Nice. Okay. So if someone wants to find both of you, where would they find you online, connecting? How do they get in touch with your business?
Yeah, there's tons of ways they can find us. So you can reach us by phone, 480-502-6999, or you can reach us at hotairexpeditions.com, via email at info@hotairexpeditions.com, and on any of our social media channels. Feel free to send us a message, shoot us a DM. We're always around to answer any questions that you might have.
Amanda and Stephanie, thanks for joining Tips for Tour Operators today. And thank you all for joining. Check us out next time where we will be digital instead of in person most likely. And be safe out there.